A very warm welcome to this gathering, Global OBE Virtual Summit 2022 on transforming education and empowering learners. Particularly today, we are here for the plenary session track 2 of Computing, Engineering and Technology for the future of education. We have here today a great speaker, Dr. Lucy Agyepong, Associate Dean Academic, City University College, Ghana. Let us have a brief introduction of her before she starts her lecture. Dr. Lucy is the Associate Dean of Engineering of Academic, City University College, a premium tertiary education institution offering holistic education to create world-renowned minds with a master's in aeronautical and aerospace engineering, followed by a PhD in mechanical engineering with an aerospace design focus. Dr. Agyepong has over 10 years specialist experience in conducting advanced research, both academic and industrial levels. Her research has spanned aircraft design with focus on alternative weight estimation and reduction methodologies. Prior to joining Academic City University College, Dr. Agyepong was the technology manager of the Design and Build group at the Manufacturing Technology Center, UK, where she was responsible for a strong team of 45 engineers with over 250 years of combined experience with skills ranging from end-to-end design of parts for additive manufacturing for through to design to overcome manufacturing or assembly challenges. She has successfully managed several projects and delivered high-value projects more than £4 million. She has actively worked with a range of industrial partners, including Airbus, GKN Aerospace, BAE, and Rolls-Royce. She is a strong advocate for women in engineering, a professional member of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, a science, technology, engineering, and a mathematics ambassador, and was recently appointed as the first and only woman to sit on the African Asian Pacific Engineering Education Council. So now I warmly welcome Dr. Lucy Agyepong to grace this plenary session. Before that, we thank the organizers of this event also, particularly Dr. Wajid Hussain and Dr. Fong, CEO, who have their hard work to manage this event. So we welcome Dr. Lucy Agyepong for this plenary talk. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody that has joined so far. Thank you to the organizers. I think this is a fantastic initiative and I'm glad and I'm proud to be part of it. And thank you so much for the introduction. And as you mentioned earlier on, I'm part of the African Asian Pacific Engineering Education Council, where outcome-based education is one of our agendas to make sure that all across Africa, all across Asia, the Pacific, outcome-based education particularly for engineering becomes the norm. So once again, thank you so much for the opportunity and for inviting me here. And when I was given the topic or when I was given the session and we mentioned that we'll be talking about the future of education, I felt it might be a good idea to contextualize it and give you a classic example of what a little African nation such as Ghana is trying to do in this sector, what we think the future of education should look like. And I've titled my lecture, Shaping the Next Generation of Transdisciplinary Thinkers for the Development of Our Nation. How a particular institution, the one that I'm the Dean of Engineering for, is looking at educating future-ready leaders. So without ado, I will just go straight into my lecture. So first of all, the way I want to start looking at this is that what are some of the challenges facing developing countries at the moment? If you look all around, all developing countries, it's never been more apt, are still trying to grasp at what economic security is. All around the world, even developed countries are suffering from the effects of climate change, self-determination, ecological integrity, and all these are some of the things that are facing developing countries as a whole. But if I were to hone it down a little bit further, if I were to hone it down to the African society, let's use Ghana as a case study, for instance, we still have, even though we've come leaps and bounds, if you come to the capital, you have good access to healthcare, but the further away you go away from the capital, access to healthcare is still an issue. When we're blessed to be in the part of the world where it literally has the sun 24/7, we have a lot of natural resources, we have a lot of minerals, agriculture. Nevertheless, it seems that African countries are not where they need to be. We're still having some particular countries talking about water shortages, sanitation is still an issue, we still have limited access to energy, and drought is still something that is prevalent and common across some sub-Saharan African countries. And this got us to thinking that we need a new generation of thinkers, we need a new generation of innovators who can combine human-centered cross-cultural design principles together with social sciences and humanities to develop and define problems and to develop solutions within that said community. And this is where the idea of development engineering comes in. Development engineering is nothing new. It's an emerging field of academic inquiry and practices that seeks to collaborate with local communities, industry, so that together we can co-define problems and co-produce solutions as well. And that is where it brings me to the topic of today. What does the future of education need to look like, particularly for our African continent? Currently, if you look at a lot of the current educational system, even on our part of the world, and even if you look outside of Africa as well, this is still prevalent and this is still an issue. You can tell that all curriculum is still based on old and traditional curriculum. It's very heavy theory-based teaching. We're still teaching things that we thought 70 years ago. Yes, we are all for fundamental principles that should stay the same. However, things are evolving at a fast pace in our world today. Therefore, our curriculum needs to be able to reflect that. You look across all current educational systems and you see that there's minimal to no industrial engagement on partnership. Now, this is something that the West has been very successful at. This is something that some of the developed countries have been successful at. But if you look at a lot of African countries, or if you look at a lot of Ghanaian universities, there's still limited engagement with industrial partners as such. There's still a lack of innovation and application of critical creative thinking. And this goes us to thinking that the future of education needs to be one that mimics industry and upcoming industry and technological trends. We need to be able to educate the global workforce through project-based and competency-based teaching. We need to make sure that our teaching is experimental and is active learning. We need to break the barriers of prescriptive professions for teaching. I mean, you go to the West, you go to the USA, and someone with the statistic background will still be allowed to teach some mechanical engineering courses. But those are some of the challenges that is faced with some of our education councils in Africa, whereby there's a barrier that if you haven't done a particular course, even if you've trained or if you worked in it, you can't teach it. We need to break that barrier of prescriptive professions for teaching, and we need to emphasize on applied knowledge and know-how as opposed to just titles and degrees. And I say this is very rich coming from me saying that, oh, I'm a doctor or I'm a professionally accredited engineer, but it shouldn't be about the titles, but rather it should be about what you know and how you can apply it. And this is where my institution that I'm actually working for, this is where we are piloting what we believe the future of education should look like. And we do this through what we call our ethos and our learning pillars. First of all, we focus that we think that a future of education needs to have holistic student development where you craft well-rounded minds so that it's a combination of IQ, knowledge acquired, and emotional intelligence. How do you behave in the workplace? When you find yourself in the global workforce, how do you compete and how do you develop? We need to have we have an underlying core of student-centric entrepreneurial thinking, integrated with social emotional learning and ethical decision-making to nurture our students to become conscientious leaders and thought and initiators of ideas. Last but not the least, one of the ways that we implement our ethos, which is very important for the future of education, is that you need to have education that the curriculum itself is innovatively designed so that it does this via explorative learning, coupled with hands-on build beyond the confines of theoretical know-how. So if I can use my university that I'm in, which is Academic City University College, as a classic example, our institution is based on 4 main pillars. So we have our first pillar that we call experiential learning. This is where we say that when we're teaching, we need our students to be able to touch it. We need our students to be able to experience it. We need our students to be able to live it. So that when they're going out into industry, a lot of these things are not new to them because they've been used to it even throughout their undergraduate degree. We also say that learning should be contextual. At the start of this presentation, I started showing some of the challenges facing developing countries, some of the challenges facing African countries. And basically, contextual learning allows you to take global principles and says, how do I make this relevant for my local community? How do I make it relevant from the country that I live in? How do I make it relevant for the continent I live in? And what does this mean for us? So if I can give you a classic example, so at Academic City, we may teach you manufacturing processes, and we may teach you welding, and we may teach you cutting, machining, and then we will let you manufacture an indigenous product so that the students can relate the global principles to something that they see every day. So there's not something that they can't relate to. Our third of our pillars is what we call unified learning. Unified learning is one of those classic pillars which we believe the future of education should all mimic. When you go into industry, you realize that you will not find just one particular skill set there. You will find a multitude of skill sets there. So even if you go to, let me use an example. If you go to a media house, for instance, that does live production of radio and TV, you will still have some scientists there, you have your sound engineers, you have your journalists there, you still have your finance people there, marketing, advertising, PR. So why is it that when we're teaching, we teach in isolation and then we keep all these skill sets apart? We at Academic City believe that the future of education needs to reflect industry, how industry works in the real world. So there are some particular courses that you should bring all skill sets together so that they work on the same project, but are able to look at it from different angles. If I can cite another example, about a year and a half ago, I took some of my students to some local vegetable farmers, which is just across from the street from where our institution is. And what the students were supposed to do is go and engage with the local community, identify what some of the challenges are, and come up with innovative new solution that can help them propel their business forward. You have some of the engineering students looking at it and saying, listen, currently how their irrigation systems are working, they need solar-powered pumps, so we're going to design a solar-powered pump for them. So that was engineering students talking. The marketing students were like, oh, we're going to help them build their online presence so that they can market some of the produce that they are developing. The business students were helping them build their business portfolio. All different skill sets working on one unified project. The last of our pillars is what we call extensional learning, where we say that in the 4 years that we give you, we know that we can't teach you everything. and we shouldn't be able to. Education should be one that teaches you or gives you the principles to become lifelong learners. But what we will do is that we will give you the fundamentals, the knowledge and know-how to be able to apply yourself wherever you find yourself. So again, if I use the same example that I used when I took some of my students to the local farmer, the first thing they asked us when we got there is that, oh, are you all agricultural engineering students? And I said, no, and we don't have to be, because some of the global and fundamental principles, you can apply it to whatever sector you find yourself, and that's what it should be like. So when we talk about our implementation of our ethos and pillars, we also do some unique things. And this is where we say education should be whole-rounded. And what we do at the institution that I'm at Academic City, irrespective of your background, irrespective of the program that you're going to do, we always introduce you to some critical things that you will need in a day-to-day life learning. We know that if you look at where the world is going at the moment, everybody needs programming. So irrespective of your background at Academic City, all our students learn programming. All our students learn logic and critical thinking, text and meaning. What's the meaning of text? How do I translate and how do I relate to other people? We look at technology and society. What's technology? What's the impact it has on society? And vice versa. We also look at and say that Ghana is surrounded by 3 French-speaking countries, and therefore we teach all our students French so that they can be able to relate with their immediate neighbors. Now, one of the challenges whenever you speak to people from Africa, they sometimes say, oh, we don't have good leadership. We wish we had better leadership. So why don't we teach it? We teach leadership 1 and 2. We teach our students know that, yes, it's good to be able to go to school, university, and hope that on the outcome of it, you will find a job. But why don't you become initiators of jobs? Why don't you become creators of jobs? Why don't you become creators of industries? Why don't you look around you and see the things that are gaps or problems as opportunities to launch new businesses? And to support that, we teach our students how to do business in Africa as well. So now we know that when we talk about future-ready leaders or the future of education, you can tell that the future of education lies in 3 new technological trends which are blowing over all over the world. 3 of such examples are artificial intelligence, biomedical, and robotics. And all over the world, people are doing amazing things in artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is taking us to a different dimension now. We have robotics or intelligent automation taking over all manufacturing everywhere you find yourself. If you look at the 4th Industrial Revolution, it is hinged on some of these technologies. You have biomedical and breakthroughs coming through that have never been done before. But the interesting thing about these things is that it's not just about these areas in isolation, but rather how they are infused and how they work together and the true research opportunities that come when 1 or 2 of them overlap. So if I can show you this simple Venn diagram here, you know that if you take artificial intelligence and you look at how it overlaps with biomedical, then you start to open up your opportunities in biomedical data analysis, personalized medicine, wearable devices. If you look at biomedical over robotics, then we start to look at rehabilitation, advanced prosthetics, haptic systems. You're looking at artificial intelligence and robotics, and we start to look at autonomous systems, drone systems from design, make, build, maintenance, the whole life cycle. And again, these are things that in the West or in developed countries, they are actively doing research on. And it's about time that countries such as Africa or continents such as Africa be part of some of the decision making or be at the forefront of some of these technologies. So many times technologies are fully developed and then they're handed down to Africa. We think that our future of education, particularly in Africa, needs to equip our students today to be able to globally compete at the same level of new and emerging technologies. Now, what we think is the sweet spot, the best spot, will be how artificial intelligence overlaps with biomedical, overlaps with robotics, and what we can truly do as a continent, as a nation, with the research that we find there. That is how we believe we can catapult our nation. And just to quickly give a bit of a recap about what we do at the institution that I am at. In terms of engineering, we offer mechanical, industrial and systems engineering, electrical and electronic engineering, electronic and computer engineering, computer science and computer engineering. I told you about those 3 fields of artificial intelligence, robotics and biomedical. And because we see that these are so important, it's quite interesting that in sub-Saharan Africa, we have very limited institutions that actually offer artificial intelligence or robotics as an undergraduate degree. So we offer it now, artificial intelligence, robotics as an undergraduate degree, and we've also added the modified biomedical as part of it as well. But our existing courses, we also give students an opportunity to have new and emerging trends infused into their current curriculum. So you can't do mechanical engineering, you can't do electrical, you can't do computer science, you can't do computer engineering, but you can have a minor in intelligent systems, you can have a minor in aerospace, you can have a minor in robotics and mechatronics, you can have a minor in biomedical, you can have a minor in renewable energy. The same thing, we do that for our business and our communication arts department. Even though we offer advertising, PR, and even though we offer journalism and mass communication, we know that robotics and AI are playing a critical role in these industries. So again, within the curriculum, we infuse new and emerging technology trends. We are adding the use of drones for commercial photography, digital marketing. Journalism and mass communication is heavily data-driven now, using a bit of artificial intelligence. We're making that a business focus, there's digitization, and underlining all this is that entrepreneurial thinking. The same with our business courses as well, whereby we say, even though we offer human resource management, marketing, accounting, and banking and finance, again, internationalization, making it a bit more modern, making it more data-driven, having a bit of fintech in there, and some digitization as well. Again, with an underlining core of entrepreneurial thinking. And we're one of the few universities that we are actually welcoming undergraduate students who may already have an idea already. And then what we will do is that over the 4 years while they get a business administration degree, we will help them launch their business through venture capitalists or whatever is required for them to launch their business, help them develop their business plans. So by the end of their 4 years, they're leaving with a ready-made business. And that's because we know that we cannot solve our problems today with the same thinking and with the same knowledge that we had when we started this. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to my talk. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to showcase what we think the future of education look like, particularly from my institution, ACity University College in Ghana. Thank you for listening. And with that said, I will say, welcome to Academic City.
Graduate from Academic City to industry, it's like the same equipment.
So not only are we giving our students the machines and equipment that's actually used in industry, we can actually assist industry right now with our equipment to generate solutions for them.
And so to have a place like this where they can integrate the classroom into a workshop environment in preparation for what happens in real life when they go to work. I think that is the added advantage that an academic city college education offers.
So once again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this conference. I think it's an amazing initiative, an opportunity for us to share ideas. I'm willing to take any questions and answers and for my details to be shared over if anyone wants to reach out to me directly. Thank you so much.